basically this is where our funding, our future funds get allocated to each of the different divisions. So what we talked about earlier today probably revamps this whole structure. And the idea, I think, that we're getting closer to the 750, 750, and 500 to hard top is more reality or realistic at this point in time than the breakdown that's on this front sheet on page 107. So ultimately, if that was the case, and I think we'll have the two options still available, but what would happen is the 2019 planned budget would become, there's an additional $500,000 that goes into operating to offset the debenture cost. That would come into here as revenue, and then we'd have to transfer back to, because the debenture payment has to be an operating, what I understand from the auditors, we'd have to transfer back out of here into operating the 750 to cover the debenture payment, if that makes sense. And then the breakdown at the bottom would be 750 calcium stabilization, 750 bridge files, and then 500 hard top reserve to make the 2 million. And it's never exactly 2 million because it's a business tax, and the cap levy can be plus or minus $20,000 easily.
So, just under the scenario you have written here, what happens between 18 and 19 and beyond? As you're down 500 on your revenues from market access.
That's the question for.
That's because of the, moving that into operating to fund the debenture debt.
Sorry, it's what?
We moved that 500,000 into the operating to fund the debenture debt. That's the difference there.
Had to do that for tax purposes then?
For the audit.
Yeah, because the debenture is an operating function, like the payment is an operating function, not a capital function. But what we could show it differently as a transfer to operating to fund, and we can say what it is on the capital side too, if you like. But it is shown in the operating budget as a market access network fund. So when we get to public works, you'll see it there. So, but we can show it on both sides if you want. Coming in and then receiving it as a transfer on the operating side.
Okay.
And that's basically what we talked about this morning, is that it should show up in the market access network plan, not operating. And that's basically, so every year is the same, so there's no real need to flip through all the pages. Unless you have a question. Bond would be an extra. Yeah, so if you look at 111, what it'll look like is there'll be an extra line added. So instead of 1,500,000, the 1 million, looking at page 111, will change to 750. The 500 will stay the same, and then there'll be a new line item for calcium stabilized haul routes for 752. That's what our debenture payment is.
It's way too.
Oh, 742.
Well, so it's in the 740 range, sorry, not the 750. I went and looked before we broke there, so I was off by 10,000. But I knew it was in that range.
And then each year, that'll be the exact same. And then we'll have to revisit in future years based on what our needs are, inflation, all those kind of things, whether the construction prices escalating or de-escalating on those allocations. But that'll be the final plan. For now, I think it's fairly stable right now.
Any questions?
Okay, so you go Was the tender awarded on this year's bridge?
Oh, for 79825, it has been, Whistle Contracting got that one, that's
Was
the
it
one.
below or?
It was slightly below the engineer's estimate, so it did come in, just below budget, yeah.
Have they started on that already?
No, they're looking at January, we're starting, yeah.
And the 815 by Tiffin is still,
We're gonna get the prelim report here shortly, because we're gonna apply for STIP funding on that one as well. See if we can get something out of the province to cover some expenses on there. We'll have that one shortly, the prelim report. Okay, so utilities is, page 131 is your summary. So we're looking at approximately, well, just about $1.4 million in projects. There's a couple on the bottom that are an unfunded rate, phase 2 and phase 3. Those projects kind of rely on a adequate sewer outfall. So we have those unfunded at the time until we can, I guess, determine how we're gonna handle the sewage for that industrial park before we go in and pave all the roads and then have to rip them up to put sewer pipe in. So those are unfunded for right now at $1 million and $1.1 million. So if you turn to page 135, this is the first project for utilities in 2019. Bring up the map here. This is phase 3 on the TV screen there. So this includes upgrading, let's see, we got some water line upgrades in there, roads, sidewalks. We need to add some isolation valves, some hydrants, a bit of sanitary line, and also a storm pond. It's difficult to see, but there's this kind of light blue shaded area right there that is identified for a storm pond. So there is some local improvement on this as well for the sanitary and water systems at $26,100. And we are working on getting those per house rates for you right now. I believe Jen is working on that, but that one's a total of $650,000 mainly through MSI, like we say 26.1 through local improvement tax.
Any questions?
Okay. Okay, so this next project is we're calling it the Airport West Residential Water Line. So if you look at the map here, this is the airport. This area right here is slated for development. That's the Luco property. And they're looking at putting in 27 new lots within this area. Along with that, there's the Valley View subdivision that currently draws water from the river, but from what I understand, it's not the best system, and it's ideally they would be connected to a pressurized system. And then there's a couple connections proposed for these lots as well in here. So it'll be a 4-inch water line that we'd like to run out there, about 3.5 kilometers long. We're looking at a cost of $720,000. We're looking at collecting some deposits from Luco for those connections, $5,000 a connection, plus the additional. He wants a couple connections up there, which will pay the full, I believe, $17,560 for. So his contributions right up front will be $180,200, with ours coming in at $539,800 from the reserve, being funded through the sale of those units once he goes and develops. He's going to put $5,000 down, but he's going to have to come up with the remaining $12,560 once he develops to fund the whole project. So in the end, the users are going to be funding this project, but for now it needs to come out of the reserve until that development occurs. That subdivision comes online and those hookups are paid for in full.
Now, are they gonna be required to put in the sisters for each one, or?
Yes.
Hook their
Trickle.
house?
So you said additional lots on the north, or the south of the road?
He's, I believe he owns his property here. He'd
Yeah,
like
there's a
to.
little 11 acres there.
Yeah, he wants, I believe, 2 hookups there, which he'll pay the full price for right away. I believe there's a couple more connections along here that these landowners are interested, which I believe would be the full connection fee right off the bat. And then his 27 lots in here, he'll pay a $5,000 deposit per lot.
And it is subject to what we do about license. Because we have no water rights in the area now that we've given up the airport.
So you have to buy a water license somewhere.
In all likelihood, I did have a quick discussion with Doug Calvin, didn't really get an answer either way. There is also the fact that South Co-op is working on the license as well, and there's a lot of their program on. Maybe we can piggyback on something, I'm not sure, I haven't been involved in conversations with them recently.
Any other questions? Claus?
We've dealt that in with the sale of the airport that we had. Yeah, too late now, but I mean, or would we not have had a possibility to do?
Oh, we were told to keep water out of the equation.
So then are we gonna go further south with the Russell?
Well,
Those people, they want water.
the plan is there, it's just, I don't think the number, their unit price would be quite substantially higher than what the units would be for these ones.
I know the one guy doesn't care what it costs, he just wants water.
Well, it's there, the plan does show a 2-inch extension going, it's another 2 miles, I think, of piping that needs to be done. And we can pick up another 6 or 8 units.
Well, he's a good 4 miles from where he did the pipe. I'll say I was about going by.
So, total cost would be, what do you say, 18,000 per unit?
17.5, well, based on the engineer's
Okay,
estimate.
so then you're at the same price as we're buying additional units from the North County right now, because we just bought one, it was 17 and a half or something.
16.
16?
North County Bottled Water Co-op is 16. That's the base price. And if it is any other extra construction above that, you pay. So it could be, we have one client on there, he's willing to pay up to 50,000 bucks.
And my suggestion would be for the existing units that this is the price, if you're signing up when the line's going in. However, that we should put an escalator in there for future, if they don't hook up for some time, we have carrying costs for that, that debt. Well, it's typically the way those rural lines are put in, you have the cost to hook up while they're coming by, and then if you decide you're gonna defer till 10 years from now, then there would be an escalator put in that agreement, so when they go to hook up, they have to pay that extra. Any questions on that one? This one's been on the books for years and years. As soon as council approves the budget, then Luco has to redo his area structure plan. So there was an area structure plan done in the 90s or something, late over in there, yeah. And so it's stale dated, so he's got to redo that area structure plan. But it will rely on a water line going in there. All right.
Okay. And the last one for 2019 is RAVE Infrastructure Upgrades Phase 2. As I mentioned, this is an unfunded project, but it is a continuation of the first phase that we completed in that industrial park. It's similar in scope, basically updating everything from the subgrade up to the road surface, water lines, sewer, roads, drainage. And we We're looking at $1 million approximately to do that second phase, but as I said, it's unfunded at this time.
We just keep shifting those a year, every year. Hopefully, we'll get a sewer line someday. We can rely on.
Any questions on 2020?
Where is that rate?
I can just zoom out a little bit for you. It's right adjacent to the city, north of Highway 3.
Right by South Bend or the internet?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you may recognize this parcel. I believe Hillary was in here not long ago about this, developing that parcel, so rate is just below there.
What did they do? What about the, yeah,
No, there was something recent came to you that just came and changed. I can't remember how fast it was. Do you remember?
Is it the Chinook Industrial
Not the
ASB?
Chinook, no, the roof, they just did something with rain, there was an agreement or something.
yeah, it was Gilmar Rain or
Yeah,
Gilmar Rain,
He's in there,
yeah.
yeah,
He did a development in there, or he's working on, in this parcel right here,
yeah,
developing that.
and something recently came to council.
He's the one that had to go pay the city a bunch of money for water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there any more questions? Move on to page 139, 2021. Got one project, and again, Ray Phase 3. Same thing as I stated before, just putting in the proper water, sewer, road network and drainage systems within that industrial park. And Phase 3 should conclude the upgrades within Ray. Question? All right, that's it for me. You don't have to hear me talk anymore.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Dylan.
So next thing you've ever said.
I'm okay.
Hello, hi.
I'm going to present the information technology capital budget, starts on page 143. So Doug has got a number of, well, 5 projects identified for quote 2019, and then 2 in each 2020 and 21, none in 2022, and 3 small ones in 23.
The front page.
I can do it for you, Tracy.
Can't find the
You're
figure,
asking
it's
too
right
much.
there. Oh,
Is that what you're looking for?
yeah.
On page 12 shows.
Else, no,
Well, that's just the front one. You just have to go to page, whatever page it is in the
we don't scroll on the capital. No. So you just have to follow one on the pages with me. So I'll go into the first project on page 147. The first project is the scheduled, well, there's 2 scheduled replacements of the main office servers, LCT host 1 and 2, for an estimated cost of $50,000. And funds to come from the IT capital reserve, which he, I believe these are on a 5-year, 5 or 7-year maintenance replacement schedule. Sorry, 4-year, as per the description. So they're just scheduled replacements. The third project at the bottom is council chamber audiovisual controller replacement, and I believe that's the little box underneath this desk that controls all of this, the audio and the visual and whatnot. a little bit earlier than scheduled replacement, as he says the controllers have become outdated or off their warranty and therefore recommended a little bit early replacement. So he will be applying for an $11,000 MSI operating grant to help fund that, as he hadn't quite collected enough yet because of the early scheduled replacement. So for a total of $21,000. On the next page, 148, counselors' iPads are in their 3-year scheduled replacement. We are recommending to replace those with the iPad Pros, which is the large iPad, because if we're going to a paperless system in the future, an electronic system, the iPad Pros will accommodate that a lot easier. So
What size is the screen, Tracy? Just curious.
it's about an 11-inch, yeah. So it's about the size of a regular piece of paper, a little bit bigger sideways. So the cost for those is $15,000, $7,400 to come from the replacement reserve, and the additional funds to come from the counselor's reserve, as we're increasing the value of the computers and not just regular iPad Airs.
So, just on that, is it not cheaper to go to to go to a laptop?
I think they all basically run about the same. They're about,
If you can get quite a bit bigger screen on a laptop, then
well, you can. I mean, you can get a screen this big on a laptop. The iPad Pro, it's a decent size. You've got the iPad Pro.
And I actually forgot it today.
Yeah, I have one at home that I use, and it's a good size. I guess the benefit outside of a laptop is, will they relate a lot better, the iPad Pros, to each other. They're easier to connect. They're less bulky to carry around with you.
Yeah, and you have your keyboard is attached, so you can just prop it up and you can use it anywhere, like no matter what, council chambers, whatever.
And I think, yeah, for what they're gonna be used for, this is what Doug recommended we go with, was the iPad Pro and not laptops.
That was Doug's recommendation.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I don't mind saying, you know, like, what's wrong with the way we're doing things now? Like, well, why we need upgrading on that? Like, you know, you can talk, you know, try all the upgrading possible down there, but it's still not changing my philosophy about what we're here for. And if you need those better electronic devices for that, we don't.
Because I know I lost that.
Yeah, no, our direction is to go forward into the future, moving into the electronic world, into a more paperless environment, better for the environment. It helps to connect everything and everybody together. It makes for an easier run agenda and whatnot, so that's where everybody's going.
And just think about those planning reports that we get that are like this much, and how many trees they have to kill for that, you know, it's quite extensive.
Yeah, and you know what I like about those electronic devices down there, you know, when you read through it down there, and then a lot of times it says, please print this off.
Sometimes. So it does all tie together, the whole, all of it ties together, right? Going electronic, the way we're preparing the agendas now, or we're trying to prepare them with approvals and everything, to right down to the live streaming and the recording of the meetings and being able to access everything through PDF and clicking on the website itself. It all ties together.
Yeah.
Each piece being a little bit individual, but it all ties
It's
together.
absolutely not a cost saving, it's gonna be more expensive. Simple as that. These things go in a blank, and you need the IT person to look at it, and he can spend days on it before he got it figured out.
I I'm not sure that we were selling it as a cost savings so much as
What do
that.
you think on the
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, like, what, I had, every council report that I got for 6 years, I had a paper until the last year, until we implemented a new software program. And then when it came to me for approval, all I had to do was go into the system and click on it. So that saved a lot of headache and having to print out all the reports. So it was just a little improvement in efficiency.
Laws?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I totally think it's ridiculous that we're getting the planning thing, that we get these big maps and everything like that. It's all online, we can all find it if we get the right proper education to do that. And I think that in the future too, with going paperless here, I think it's, we're way behind that we're not paperless yet. I mean, the other organizations that was, we were all paperless already, and I know that sometimes you gotta print some stuff off, but you don't need everything that is on there. You can find it all the time. And you just get your cupboard full at home with all paperwork and everything like that, and yeah, I'd rather see those trees back in the forest.
And I'd like to see the industry doing really well. Maybe we should go milkless too.
I think the other benefit, to answer Liberty's question about why iPads is also because of the touchscreen feature. So the iPad Pros come with a smart pen, same size as a regular pen. You can write your notes exactly right on the agenda itself, just as though you could in front of you. So that's one of the recommendations for the iPad Pro.
We don't need to spend any more time on it, I know.
Okay.
And one thing I would
I
say,
just trying to
like,
cover somebody's tab.
let's not go to the laptops anymore. I mean, that's, we're beyond laptop age. And I think it's way ahead of beyond the,
No, they drink milk, those.
well, that's a good thing.
So they might want to keep a business, but no, so what about little monitors here instead of?
So this is going to address that. So what we're planning on having is little docking stations that are charging stations that the iPad Pro just connects into. Once you connect it at your desktop, you're connected live to the agendas and whatever's on the screen. Is in theory how it's supposed to work. I'm not going to guarantee anything right now.
So what screen are you connected to? I kind of lost you there.
Well, you'd be connected to the agenda. So as it's scrolling through, so your binder basically, it would come up with the agenda package on your thing there, on your iPad. So we scroll the agenda. We do.
What kind of?
Kind of.
The resolutions.
You mean up those screens up
No, no, sorry. The one over here, Maddie scrolls through the agenda so the gallery can see. So you basically, when you plug in, it becomes your agenda binder is what it becomes. And you can make notes on it. I'm not sure exactly how the actual, if you can, I'm not sure of the details of it, but that's the, in theory, use of it.
I just have a little concern it's maybe too small, that's all.
It is the size of a regular piece of paper, a little bit bigger. I think it's like 11.8. It might even be 12 inches.
Could we look at one just so, like, when, not now, but if you put that hard one, just so that Charles could have.
I can bring mine tomorrow too. It's a big screen, yeah.
The biggest, they'll make it bigger.
No. No, they don't. But you can zoom in and zoom out on them, right? You can.
If you have the iCompass, there's links, like you see the agenda, like if you have that software program specifically or one like it, you can touch screen and it'll go into that report.
Yep.
And then it's very easy to go back out to the agenda. But given that, there's always a period of continued paper until the transitions.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be some paper that has to come forward. No, they'd probably be included in the electronic.
So the issue before was you were never on the agenda, and by the time you got back to the agenda, you had to flip through so many pages to get back to the page where the report was. It was just brutal.
So into the next item here is e-council software initiative. So this is eScribe, and I believe this is what Ann uses to look at. And so this is where this is much more than just the agenda software, but it brings everything together with the live webcasting, the publishing, the preparing for minutes, conducting meetings, and I think the biggest is the agenda creation. So theoretically, and I know Ann's had it in practice, so she can actually vouch for it, is you could click on the agenda on any item and go right to that report. Two, it would be the attachments. It's very similar to the city's website, I think, where you've got attachment 1 is the agenda report, attachment 2 is any maps or whatever that were attached to it.
And what I liked about it is, it was very easy to use for everybody, and our council had got it right very quickly. So it was it wasn't just getting into the reports, but getting back out to the agenda, because that was always my concern. How quickly are you gonna be able to do that? It was pretty user-friendly too.
Yeah, so we are anticipating using MSI operating grant for that. We have, there's been a few projects canceled operating grant wise that have freed up some money in the MSI operating. So we are going to seek an application for that.
So you're basically looking at 45.5 for the first year to get into this?
38, because the iPads were scheduled for replacement anyways, so they were going to be replaced anyways. We're just asking for an enhanced version of the iPad instead of the regular iPad Air. The additional cost of $8,000.
So do we have iPads now for everybody?
They do. Does anybody have one here? So you've got this here? That's the little guy.
So could you run that by me again once more? It's 30,000 for the software.
Yeah, and an additional, so the iPads were scheduled for replacement. If you see at the top there on the right-hand side, it's $7,400 from the capital reserve.
Yeah.
So that's what the cost was going to be to replace your iPads anyway. But to bump them up to the iPad Pro is an additional $8,000 this year. So even if we don't go with the software initiative and everything like that, he's still going to replace your iPads for $7,400, just with the same thing you got there, only today's version.
But it still costs $45,500 all in.
Okay.
That's a lot of treaty paper.
Where the software is going to really help us administratively running the agenda. With the new way that we've got with our approvals going and backing everything up and a week and stuff, it's going to help us keep these reports on track. It's going to help us with the approvals. It's going to help the girls to run the agenda, to get it in a format that is for our website for the citizens out there so that they can engage it the way that you can, say, at the city's meetings and whatnot, instead of just, right now it's just a recording on the website and that's all it is. With the software, you can make it so that if you wanted to see just a specific report at that council meeting, say you wanted to see what council did with a certain subdivision, you just click on that item on the agenda, it takes you right to that location in the video, and you watch the report and you're done. I mean, it has a number of other capabilities as well, but I think those are the two biggest ones for us.
So that's this software that does that?
Mm-hmm. And then the reports are also there for you to view, so you can see the actual discussion taking place, watch it on the video. The reports are there for you to click and open up, for a citizen, I should say, to click and open up and read through if they want to, much as if they were just sitting here with us with a binder in front of them.
So,
Go ahead, Mark.
So, if I may, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So when are the binders gonna be eliminated?
Tomorrow. No. No.
I just wanna say, you know, a lot of times in the last year or whatever, we don't even bother picking up our binders, so we go into our either your iPhone or you basically your laptop already.
Because they get emailed out already,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so, you know, yeah, so, advanced, a little bit more probably.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to be meeting with eScribe in December to run through a demo with them. But I think they're the supplier of choice. We've got a couple different demos to look at, but all grant funded MSI operating. There's limited use for MSI operating funds, as you know, but
So who's demoing them? Like, are we gonna try them?
well, just the software itself, I think Doug has already demoed part of this eScribe one, and I'm set up to demo a couple, not for me to demo, just for them to show a demo of their software and what it will do.
Wouldn't hurt if we could show council too, because then we could get a better idea.
Pardon me?
Just lease them for a couple months.
You always pay no matter what.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am concerned about the size, but that's all.
Yeah, we'll both bring our iPad Pros in case one of us forgets tomorrow, and you can see it. I will.
Those things aren't that easy to read at times.
But it is,
Bigger now.
Not much.
it is at least the size.
Yeah.
No, it's a surface, but it's a size, if they wanna look at. Or just put a piece of paper up to it, well.
But it's still bigger.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's full size for
Bigger
sure.
than that. This is Windows based, not Apple.
Yeah.
But a little bigger than
Yeah.
that.
They're bigger than that.
Yeah.
Like cameras?
No.
We'll bring one in tomorrow and you can have a look at it and bring the agenda up on there and scroll through. Like I said, I think the nice thing is that you can mark them up with your own and save it and it'll be there later when you open it up.
Like, Keelan sent me his budget, because I wanted to look at the PowerPoint, he asked for it, so he sent it to me, my old iPhone didn't work for my iPad. I brought it up, I could see the whole PowerPoint, everything.
So then how do you download it at home? When you get it, like,
The agenda?
yeah,
Well, it's either sent out by email, and I'm not sure exactly on the software how it,
Depends on the specific thing.
I don't know until we meet with them and there's probably, my guess is there's like an app that you just go into and that's where all the agendas
so but do you
are.
have to have an internet connected at home to make this work or not? Or yes, no?
Well, the iPad Pros, they come with, they're connected, they're on 3G. Yeah, they're on a card just like your phone, they work just like a phone. So you can connect to wireless, which of course is cheaper, I guess, but you're on the county plan with the iPads. So you're running 3G, so you would be connected anywhere where your phone is connected to the internet. You can check it in your car, you can check it, not so much on an airplane, but unless you're on
You
WestJet.
could distract and drive while you're reading your agenda, but you can't talk on your phone.
But and your Wi-Fi don't problem.
See if that
Yeah.
flies by the RCMP, my agenda.
But yeah, the iPad Pros, that's one of the differences too, is that they come with the network card in them, the internet card that connects you to the internet, what do you call it, the cellular network. They're quite awesome. I quite love mine.
I bring mine everywhere except today.
Yeah. I mean, full size, even watching.
Yeah, I haven't used it this morning.
Mine's a personal one, it's not a work one.
That's all right.
Okay, so moving on to 2020, we're done with that, page 151. We just have two projects there, the GIS plotter replacement for $15,000. Both of these projects coming from the capital replacement reserve, and the financial server replacement for $50,000.
So what's the difference between the main office servers and the financial server?
The financial server just runs our financial software. Bellamy, yeah. And the other servers, they house everything else. So they house everything else other than like all our files, all our reports, all our.
One thing that we don't have in here that we're working on internally is records management. And it may change, like not for 2019, but we have to put a plan together on how we're gonna move forward. So that may come in 2020.
or 2021, that's gonna figure out how we're gonna go forward with that. Because we
So
are
just-
serious in the budget.
Yeah. Just food for thought, when I first started here, the financial server replacement was an IBM series, or I-series IBM server, and it was 75,000, so they have come down in price quite a bit over the years. I know it's still a lot of money.
I can remember going to John Deere in Medicine Hat, and their computer system took up about the size of this room,
Yeah.
and all it could do was maybe run the parts counter.
Okay, in 2021 on 155, again, 2 projects. This is the digital aerial ortho photos update, so this is a 3-year, running the orthos every 3 years. This is when they would be scheduled for running again, our share being $60,000. And then the GIS data server replacement for $15,000, 4-year replacement schedule. There's a lot of servers that house all different stuff. And in 2023, nothing in 2022. Then we're back to the 4-year schedule of the replacement for the main office servers again, and the large TV in the commerce room, it looks like, the smart screen in there.
And we were talking about that during, when we were doing our discussions, that maybe by that time, technology will have changed.
Well, 4 years more than likely, but
Well, I can guarantee you that I won't be here.
Yeah.
yeah.
So is that just like a regular TV? Is there something special about it? Because you could buy a 70-inch TV now for cheaper than $10,000.
The one in there is a smart touch, so it's a touch kind of capabilities on it.
Yeah, you can still get the smartphones on that too.
The resolution is much higher on those. They're specific for computers as well. They're not your basic TV you purchase for watching movies and television. It's a lot higher resolution, so when you open up an Excel document or something like that, you can read those numbers more clearly. So it is a much higher quality than your typical television.
So that's
And they,
240.
yeah, they probably will change as well, right? He's got it in there identified as a project that's scheduled to be replaced. I mean, we're 5 years out from that, so cost will change, but it is from the replacement reserve as well. And that's it for IT and for capital. Done.
Dave,
On the ortho, do we still partner with Willow Creek?
there's more than Willow Creek, isn't there?
Yeah, Willow Creek manages the project. I'm not sure how many there are, but.
Okay, for quite a bunch then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a bit to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Cindy, well, I don't know who will do it when Cindy's gone, but
That's Willow Creek doing,
they manage the whole project for us, and we just contribute.
The city does it, they do it in the spring. That way all the leaves are gone from the trees.
I think Devin can vouch for this. I think it depends who you talk to. Some people want the trees on, some people don't want the leaves on.
So.
They were flown this year, were they not?
Pardon me? They were flown, the smoke delayed us a little bit. The reason why we do it in the fall is basically the irrigation districts want the imagery in the fall, and they pay the bulk of the cost to get it flown. So their share is much larger than like the municipal share. So we just we go with their schedule, because it costs us, I believe, $60,000 each time. If we wanted to do it ourselves, it'd be $200,000 to $300,000. So we follow their schedule. We get a really nice discounted rate, but it's not flown ideally. It's flown in the fall. Unfortunately, we get imagery with dead grass and stuff like that instead of nice spring kind of lush.
So we do have a number of items in the green there for capital parking lot items that we'll,
I have some answers already, so I can.
okay, Jen will go through them and.
So I guess first, before I get some of the parking lot items, just some notes I took from the meeting and discussions, just looking for some direction on them, if council wanted to give some on the capital today. So the one was within the Public Works capital budget. Are we removing the 10 miles proposed base stabilization at this time? Or did you still want to sit on that and think?
Yeah.
And then if they say no, then sure.
It was a grant-funded project that could be brought back as well, or if council's direction at this time. It also kind of flowed through the next few years of public works budget as well with different miles. I think it was down to 5 miles.
For sure, we're not doing anything for a year or better.
Yeah.
Okay, so take out the 2019
Yeah.
for the time being. Okay. My second item was just a note.
Just for clarification, so could you, instead of taking it out for 2019, shift it? So, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
You know, you have 2019, 20, so shift it to 2020, and then
Do that.
we'll review it. Is that satisfactory, and then that way we're not backed up like that?
And then we can just revisit it at that time?
Yeah.
Okay. The second one was just with regards to Market Access Network capital, just basically updating those sheets as per our discussions, just to show the flow through a bit differently on it and to level out those numbers the way we discussed. IT, I guess, get more the direction on the iPad Pros and the e-council. And those are my notes from capital, all of the capital over the last couple of days, as far as direction goes.
And the only thing I still think we need is the utilities, the local improvement tax for the Shaughnessy.
I have that number.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I just put this together pretty quickly, so I just took our budgeted local improvement numbers and the number of parcels I got from Mike, and then did a 10-year and a 20-year proposal. So just give me a second here.
So you think we'll bring them in tomorrow?
So this is like very quick put together, but it gets, I'll make this bigger for you.
Oh, she's ready to look.
So, through the 5 phases, phase 1 didn't have a local improvement tax that could be applied. Phase 2, we have 110,000 budgeted, but that project did come in lower. We just don't have final numbers yet, so that could be reduced slightly. And then 3, 4, and 5 are as per the budget. So, you know, total of just over $168,600 for the 5 phases. So if we did a 10-year annual payback, it would be $106 per parcel by the end of the 5th phase, and $53 if you did it over 20 years. So that goes right on their annual tax notice as a local improvement tax. That doesn't include any interest, if we were to add interest on top of that, or anything like that. That's just a straight calculation for today's purposes, just to give you an idea.
Rick?
Just one thing, Morris has thought about the Roxburgh debenture, is that
Well,
still something
I
you
was gonna
want
bring
numbers
that up,
on?
I was just waiting for this to finish, but.
So I did also look at our debt limits while we were in the meeting, so I could bring that back for you as well. So with the airport transfer to the city, we were able to reduce our debt by just over $600,000, but we also gained $13 million in the last 2 years for the Market Access Network. So our total debt, including the $13 million, and this doesn't exclude any payments made in the last year. This, again, I was just putting this together quickly for presentation purposes, is just shy of $17 million. But according to our 2017 financials, our total debt limit was over $38.6 million. So it should leave us somewhere around the $21 million mark for.
It's also gonna drop.
It will drop, yeah.
There's lots of room to pull a $4 million debenture.
Yeah. Yeah, like we have well over $20 million in debt tax as.
Oh.
I just want to go back to the Shaughnessy one. The total amount, like after the 5 phases, is going to be 100. If you do 10 years, it's going to be $106 a month. I mean, a year extra on taxes. Was that also mentioned at the open house that they had, that they were going to pay these kind of amounts extra?
I don't believe there's been
There hasn't
open
been
house
open
yet.
house.
We haven't even brought forward a bylaw yet.
But
And each project, it will have its own bylaw, right, Gary?
full
Yeah, I
improvement
would
plan.
say so, each year, yeah, you can do it separately. Maybe. One note, perhaps, just to keep in the back of our minds, yeah, each time you go to do the local improvement, that's council or county initiated. The citizens who would be liable to making the payments have the ability collectively to quash that. So again, the threshold in the Municipal Government Act is 2/3 of the affected property owners, as long as they represent 50% of the assessed value of the properties. If enough of them come forward in those numbers to petition, then council could still go ahead with the project, but they wouldn't have to pay. So fortunately, it's only 10%, you know, and it may not be a showstopper in some cases, but just something to keep in mind. Council could be on the hook for the full amount should they come forward and say, we're not interested in paying, thank you very much.
Or you cancel it.
Yeah.
Or you cancel.
Just this question for Rick. The Brock's Barn, have we got an estimate on doing the whole thing, or how long would it take you to pull that together?
Not an engineering estimate, I base it off previous construction costs with inflationary added to it.
So you're saying 4 million to do everything at once, is that?
Oh, no, sorry, I meant the project I proposed, the overlay, that's what I calculated it.
Yeah, but if we wanted to go ahead with the suggestion from Councillor Zeenstra, how long would it take us to get an estimate on doing everything?
At least a month.
Okay.
For an engineer to do a prelim design, yeah, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have, one of the other parking lot items was with regards to the emergency services vehicle and the equipment that was transferred in the last vehicle we just purchased. So I got some figures back. It looks like the dash camera is $9,500 and the radar is $5,000. There's also the radio, weren't positive on, but the controller portion of that is $1,500. So if all of those features are able to be transferred into the new vehicle and don't need replacement, that would be some salvage that we would save with the purchase of the new vehicle. So I can edit that sheet. I'll talk with David and see where the equipment is at there. And if we don't need to replace any of that, then I can include that in the salvage, and it would reduce a portion of what would need to be funded. So, but I know he did mention that, or Sean mentioned that the one radio was getting dated, so that might be an item that needs to be replaced. So I think.
Hey, sorry. Just going back to that debenture for the Roxburn Park, I think we've given a kind of a rough estimate of $4 million.
Yeah, that's what.
Did we throw that out this morning?
Yeah.
So just loosely food for thought, if you want us to explore further, we can, but over 20 years, because that's, Rick says that's about how long it lasts before it would need to be repaid. If we borrowed the whole $4 million, would be $275,000 annual debenture payment that we would need to come up with. So just so you have that, that would be additional, probably tax support. Because I know we don't have $4 million of grants kicking around for that. But
What happens if we're moving the calcium-based roads and we're taking them out of 2019? How much room is there then from that? Do you know what I mean? Is that a possibility, Jen or Tracy?
Yeah, it was MSI.
there's 1.3 million there.
MSI, so that would be an FGTS.
So if that could be,
Yes.
I just want to get some clarification possibly from Morris regarding Broxburn. Are you requesting to bring that industrial park up to a standard where there is never any ban any time of year? Is that good? Because how it's designed is they take into account the traffic volumes in that park and design it for 20 years. So 20 years is the life cycle of that asphalt. Are you looking for a design comparable possibly to a single digit highway where there are no bans all year round? Is that what you were looking for? Okay. Okay, thank you.
It's absolutely just common sense that you don't have a ban when you have an industrial park within your municipality. That is, nowhere else in the world will do that. I mean, in North America.
Okay, so factoring in roughly half of that being able to be grant funded, so borrowing another 2 million. Of course, depending how it all washes out, it could vary, but a $2 million loan over 20 years would be about $150,000 a year payment.
160.
150 roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, sorry.
We spent 1 million in Broxburn last year, was it, to resurface? So then that would be wasted, I guess?
Potentially. We have to see what the engineers say.
Whatever guy you don't.
They go down and go to the base, right?
Yes, you'd have to basically core the road down. I should get it. I'm sorry, I'll sit here. You would have to take the existing road, core it down, and build it back up again with an even thicker structure. That's one option, or the other option is adding on to the side of the road and building it up even higher, but then you have issues tying into the businesses and their entrances and stuff like that. So the best way to go about it would be to dig the road down and build it back up with a much thicker structure. But then the asphalt that we just put in there would be removed, basically.
So I'm hearing now that that road that we did last year, we didn't bring that up to federal standard. So then we would have to redo that stretch too again?
If you wanted no ban at all any time of year, it would have to be redone. How it's designed right now is still a seasonal ban.
Who sets that seasonal ban standard? I think, you know, for the traffic what comes in there at a slow speed, because, you know, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can get up to full speed. So is that set to highway standard, or how do you come up with that one? Because I think what we did there last year, that's plenty good for a year now. That's my feeling, but an engineer won't tell you that, I know that, but the thing is, we gotta start using a little bit of common sense too.
We could possibly look at not having that industrial park banned. I'd be cautious of it, but we could try it for a year and see what happens. There may be a blowout, there may not. I would just be a little cautious about that.
Okay, Rick, and then Ann.
Yeah, the road ban program is put in place to protect the infrastructure based on what we know happens within, say, asphalt roads as a general condition. If council wants to take that risk and allow full loads during a seasonal ban season, that's your prerogative. Typically, guys in mine and Devin's position would recommend against that, but I mean, it's entirely up to you guys if that's the route you want to take. And there is risk, there is some reward that may be had. The structure is not there to take those loads while the frost is coming out of the ground. That's all there is to it. So, it may bridge it, it may not. Our lives are based on averages, and the average road that's built to that structure will fail during those seasons, which is why they're banned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, when you get frost damage, it's usually because of the water was sitting right along the road, or it seeps through the road. And the way that the industrial park was put in place on there, we have got no water standing anywhere, it drains off good. So I think the bed where we're building these roads on are gonna be plenty dry, and I think we gotta use a little bit of common sense. We're not gonna have these failures. What are you guys trying to tell us? But we will have if we go along with you guys, an unbelievable big cost for absolutely no good reasons. That's the way I look at it. Like even up Park Lake Road down there, I think an overlay would have been plenty good, but we lost out on that one too.
I have one first, sorry, from Mr. Zeenstra, skip the queue. My question is, and I don't know because I wasn't here, when we did that $1 million at Broxburn, what was the thinking behind it? We were doing the road and we felt that we were only bringing up to a certain standard and the bands would continue. Is that what the thought process was?
In response to your question, the whole business park was banned to 75% load year-round. So we came up with a solution that would get rid of the annual ban. However, our recommendation at the time was that seasonal bans would still come into play to protect the road during the time when frost is coming out of the ground. Typically March to June. Last year it was a little bit earlier, depending on the season. 2 years ago we put them on in January because it was a warm winter.
So anywhere from 4 to 6 months.
Well, it could anywhere from typically around 3 months, 3 to 4 months. My recommendation, and I'll just go out on a limb here, I would say I would think it would be more prudent to do the rest of the upgrades that we're talking about and allow the roads to go without bans during seasonal ban season and do repairs versus investing the $4 million. That would be my suggestion. I think that upgrading that road to the industrial standard and doing that full investment you'll never get the money out of that business park in the 20 years.
I just have a quick one. What kind of liability is that going to put the municipality and the county in if we don't have the bans? What's going to happen have we looked into that?
Well, it's
like
not,
my question is, if we lift the bans and something happens, what kind of liability? Are we going to be in some kind of situation there?
No, the roads don't fail like a bridge. The roads will fail with a surface structure. You'll see alligator cracking or maybe some blowouts of the road. So the liability is in the value of the asset. So if it costs a $200,000 repair to do a patch because it blew out in one spot, that would be what would be on the books. It's not a safety concern. The speed limits in there are low. I think it's like 30 or 40 kilometers an hour. It's not, you're not going to damage vehicles. Maybe the odd pothole here and there, but that's typically not our liability. They have insurance for things like that. That would be, my recommendation anyway, would be to go ahead with the overlay like we're talking and not put the bans on. And that way the investment can be made in the business park. We can allow it to function, but if the roads do fail, then we'll have to do repairs in there.
Morrison and
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, the last comments that you made, Rick, that absolutely makes sense to me. Because, just like I said earlier, we got good drainage down there. We got traffic there, but we'll never ever have a high speed down there, and I think if we go that route, and then we might have the regular patch job to do, but that's a lot cheaper than spending the $4 million too, because that's gonna cost $150,000 a year. It doesn't matter if you have a debenture or not, but that's what it's gonna cost you. So that makes a lot of sense to me, going that route.
what else do you think?
Pardon me?
I said, what does everybody else think?
Then I'll go. if we made an investment last year, we spent $1 million on that. If we wanna go with no bands, then I would suggest go ahead with no bands and don't do the big upgrade, because I mean, we've spent this kind of money on the road. And if the road does fail, we can still do the whole thing because it wouldn't cost any more.
That's right.
So we could just go ahead and just see what happens.
That's what
Any other comments? Any other comments? So I guess we're good, oh, go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, I would agree with Martha.
Okay, sounds like we're good to go ahead as planned. Okay,
Okay.
next one?
Just a minute, oh, what do you mean, go ahead? That's-
Well, we were gonna put pavement on it and then take the ban off.
Yeah, like that overlay.
Well, you're gonna have to overlay the part that wasn't overlaid
Yeah,
and then take the ban off.
yeah. Okay, that's
So-
the plan, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's the $400,000 for the rest of the park is exactly the way, and what will happen when we come forward to put the road bans on, we'll just eliminate those roads from the road ban order. And that's, I think we revised the policy so we can just do that without the committee now, because the committee doesn't exist.
Okay? Okay,
And just, we'll monitor. I mean, if the road starts blowing up, obviously, we're gonna put a ban on because we don't want it impassable.
Okay, so the other parking lot item up there was the asset management software, which came up yesterday. So I did pull some figures. So back in when we originally went for the, we call it Public Sector Digest, who manages it, but it's the asset management software. But there's 4 pieces to that software. It's not just for asset management. There's a capital planning component, a works component, and call it the 4th is?
There was a life cycle.
A life cycle, and then the asset management. So the total cost for all 4 modules and the first year's annual fee was $58,610, and it also included the training as well. So that was the purchase of the modules, the training, and then the first annual fee. The annual fee moving forward is $12,000 per year, approximately, and that again is for all 4 modules, so it's about $3,000 per module annually. So those were the costs on the software.
And we did utilize a grant to purchase that software.
Yeah, back at the time, we used MSI to fund that.
Was there additional funding too under a different thing for, I thought there was asset management money out there that we realized, no?
So in 2018, we used that MAMP grant, and that's for this asset management plan program, which is separate from the software. Yeah,
so did you get any money from FCM for that?
that's the MAMP,
Oh, okay.
sorry. Yeah, it's through FCM.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So I think outside of us doing an update on the base stabilization, I think we've touched on all the parking lot and capital items. So if council doesn't have any more questions with capital or this.
Great.
Yeah, no, just one thing that I had expected to come up during the conversation, especially when we started talking about the bathroom renovation in Picture View, is we're doing the study, and it doesn't come up in the 5-year capital plan for what the strategic plan says, everybody under one roof, and has us doing an overall overview of what construction costs are and everything. We weren't prepared to add anything in capital. Just, it's been a major conversation we've had every year. We've had capital discussions up until now since I've been here. We didn't leave it out purposely, it's just that we don't really have the information to put it in the capital budget now. Nothing's gonna happen in 2019 as far as I'm aware, but we'll start looking at it and bringing something back in future years as to how we're gonna function over the next 20 or 30 years. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Morris?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it does make sense, but the thing is, we gotta, we as a county and council, we gotta be more realistic though, because, you know, we've done a lot of piecemealing so far, you know, like in Pittsburgh and a little bit in Colville, but, we gotta start thinking everything under one roof. That is probably gonna be the solution to go someday, instead of keeping on piecemealing everything that we have been doing, so that's my comment.
Cause.
I agree with Morris, and I think maybe we need a little bit more time to be able to do that, to see where we're going with emergency services. Because that would probably connect into that, and, you know, so maybe next year.
Well, I think there's a lot of things you have to look at. Like, for instance, I don't think the life of the Coaldale shop is that long. So where do you move that to? And you move everything that's there to contribute? You got room? Don't you have the room? Like, you know. So.
A lot of variables there.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so just like I said, Ann has asked us to commission a report
Yeah.
that we'll bring forward in the next little while. It's not gonna be part of the budget.
Council was aware that the report's coming, so that's
Oh.
why we had that discussion.
Okay. So you still haven't answered this one. What are you gonna do here? You wanna do it or? You know what? I don't know how much can these people afford? Like, do we have to? I guess that's something, you have a question we have to sort of answer. Or do we have to, if we're gonna, you know, pay for the whole works, we should put it all in the budget now.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
We can leave it in the budget as a local improvement, and go through the process, which would involve some open houses, the bylaw, the opportunity for the residents to appeal that, or have us get rid of it. And then if that's the case, and we don't have a local improvement tax, we can come back with another funding source for that difference. If you look at it on a year by year, it's not a huge amount, and we should be able to fund it through, grants for the most part. But I think they're getting a lot of upgrades for, you know, a fairly small amount of dollars at the end of the day. So hopefully they'll see it that way as well.
I'm not disagreeing with that, it's just, you know, you gotta, it's kinda like Monarch, where we got to the point where, how much more can they afford to pay?
Mm-hmm. Currently, they don't have any local improvement tax, so.
In Shaughnessy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we gotta keep in mind too, the projects that they were willing to tackle there with, that we just send a letter of support for a grant too, for their community center, what they were working on, because I mean, that was a big amount of money for them. And I think that we probably just, I fully agree with you, like, just go through open house, hear what they have to say, and then go from there. I like that idea. Yeah.
We'll have more exact dollars too, and if we put an interest to it as well, so.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Okay, so if we, it's just about 2:30, if we want to take a quick break, we could probably get through council and CAO's budget this afternoon before 4 o'clock, and then get going real hard tomorrow. Council's in favor of that?
We could get through, which part did you say?
Council and CAO's office budgets,
Oh, okay.
operating budgets.
Yeah.
If you guys wanted to kind of push through.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, well, if you want to take a quick break, then.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, I don't.
Morris has got a lot of time.
Keep cold or?
Or you could key for what? All you need is a
The heat.
stir stick. Oh,
Good break.
you turn it down, right?
Is it too hot now?
Oh, shit. Oh.